Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, broadcasting live every Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. Central from Panama City Beach, Florida, home of the world's most beautiful beaches. I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining me on my weekly broadcast. Every week, I'll feature some of the best instructors, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs in the golf business today. I begin with a great discussion on Coach's Corner, followed by an insightful interview with my special guest. So let's get started by introducing tonight's Coach's Corner panel. All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and very excited once again, the 22nd of October, so we're almost ready to put a cap on the month of October, just another little over a week, and we'll be into the next month. And as I was just saying to my guests coming on here for the Coach's Corner panel, I don't know where time has gone, but boy, it's going quick. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for joining me here live. We've got a great show for you tonight. As I mentioned, we're going to have the Coach's Corner panel is going to start off here, and I got a couple of great professionals here. Very excited to have both of them. And then a little bit later on in the show, my special guest is going to be the CEO of PerfectMotion, Rich Kosowsky, is going to be joining me on the second half of the show. So I'm really excited to talk about the PerfectMotion app. Got a lot of great things to sort of unpack in that discussion. But we're going to start off here with Coach's Corner momentarily. But I want to remind everybody, of course, that Golf Talk Live is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing top quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And, of course, Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, offering insightful reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top PGA and LPGA teach professionals, all designed to help improve your game from tee to green. So go to golftipsmag.com and subscribe today. And just a quick side note, in addition to the print version, we now also have a digital-only version. Up till now, it was either print or you could get the print and digital version as a package. You can now get the digital-only version for those of you that prefer that way of reading your magazine. So go to golftipsmag.com and subscribe today. All right, as I mentioned, we're going to start off here with the Coach's Corner panel. I'm going to introduce you to the gang, and then we'll get to started with tonight's discussion. First up, of course, is Paul Castor. He is one of the country's leading golf coaches. Been recognized Golf Guide by the country's best teachers since 2017 and was twice honored by U.S. Kids Golf as their top 50 kids coach. Paul works with golfers of all skill levels from 5 years old to professionals who have competed in majors. 17 of his junior clients have qualified for the World Championships held each year at Pinehurst Resort. He serves on the advisory boards of Foresight Sports and 4D Motion Sports and is a Level 2 certified by the Titleist Performance Institute. Also Aimpoint Golf and Science and Motion Sports, and is a Level 3 certified super speed golf coach. And, of course, glad to welcome back my next panelist, and that is Jamie Leno-Zimron. She is an instructor, a body worker, and consultant. She's also an Aikido 6th degree black belt and Class A LPGA teach professional. She's a corporate and conference speaker, executive trainer and coach, and speaker for Vistage International and TEC Canada, the executive committee. So, Jamie and Paul, welcome back to Coach's Corner.
Thanks for having us, Ted.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Ted. Great to be here always.
I appreciate it. Well, as always, guys, I want to thank you for coming on. So I'm going to start, Paul, with you. I think we'll keep it in the order that I introduced you tonight. And I actually had this discussion with last week's panel, but I thought it was some really interesting questions. There's only a few of them here, but you'll understand once we get going through here. I think this is something that I want to take this opportunity to sort of recognize the many great professionals out in this industry. And I think it's important for the listeners to understand. I know there's some other fellow teacher professionals and coaches that are tuning into the show, but there's also a lot of amateur golfers. And I think it's important to understand how you guys started out and how you got to where you are. So the first question, Paul, is I'd like you to think of a couple of things, two things that made you the teaching professional that you are today. And you can certainly, in one or both, you can include individuals that have helped get you to where you are today.
Oh, thanks, Ted. It's a great question. I think the first person that comes to mind is my first coach growing up, whose name was Emmanuel Worley. And I grew up in Chicago, right on the south side, in the city, and I went to Manny for my first golf lesson, and that was I had just turned 13 and didn't have any golfers in my family. And somehow I was a baseball player, and I was lucky enough to kind of stumble on a golf club. It was an old Lawson Little 7-iron that I found on a baseball field, and it was kind of buried in this deep grass, and it was clear that somebody had forgotten it, but there were some golf balls there, and I started knocking these balls around the park in front of my house, and it was fun, and so I asked my parents for a golf lesson, and I went to see Manny, and I didn't realize it, but at the time he was the best African-American player in the country, and he was like an institution on the south side of Chicago. He'd won the city amateur like 4 times. He'd missed playing on the PGA Tour by a stroke, almost got through Q school. And I went to him for a 1-hour golf lesson, and at the end of that, he said, okay, so when are you coming back? This is, you've got something here. And I said, well, I'm not really sure how many of these my parents are going to be willing to do. And he said, well, we're going to find time for you to come back, and we'll figure that out. And so I ended up working for him at his driving range and golf course that he managed, which was Jackson Park, the only 18-hole golf course in the city of Chicago. And I worked for him, and caddied for him in tournaments and qualifiers, and did that until I went to college. So without Manny, I wouldn't be a golfer. I wouldn't be a golf coach. Just learned so much from him and from spending time around him and caddying for him and working for him. So without question, he is kind of the person who's responsible for me being in the industry. I think the other factor was having a chance, I think, to go play professionally and see how far I could take my game at that level. And I was just very lucky to have people who supported me doing that. And I spent 3 years playing on mini tours and got to play with some great players. And unfortunately, my career as a player ended up getting cut short because I suffered a wrist injury. But without those experiences, without support from people like Manny and the people who helped me play, when I got out of college, there's just no chance that I'd be doing what I'm doing. So I owe a debt of gratitude to all of them, for sure.
Wow, that's a great shout out. Number one, recognizing somebody that obviously very early on in your life, Paul, was a mentor of sorts, and obviously inspired you to go on to do the wonderful things, and obviously the people that supported you while you took your opportunities to try and battle with some of the best, out on tour to see, where your game was. So great. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's very good. And, it's always interesting to share, some of the backstory. Everybody looks at us and says, well, what did you do? And so on and so forth. And, you do a lot of great things today, but how did you kind of get your start? Did you wake up one day and decide I want to be a teaching professional, or was there some other journey along the way? Thanks for sharing that, Paul. I appreciate it. Jamie, what about yourself? 2 things that made you the teaching professional or coach that you are today.
Oh, this is really a fun thing to look at. It's actually, for me, it's been kind of a long and winding road in a sense. I started playing golf. I was 7 years old, and it's back in the 60s, and there wasn't much in the way of junior programs. I didn't really have much to teach a lesson or 2 here or there, but I just really had a natural ability, and my parents wanted to play, so I started playing. And it was in Wisconsin, and we had a very short season, 3-4 months, but I had a ton of natural talent. I was the Wisconsin State golf champion the first time I tried when I was 13, and I won a bunch of times, and I finally played when I was 17 when you thought, well, let's try nationals. So I played at Pinehurst number 2, lost to Laura Blah on the 19th hole, sudden death.
Wow.
But yeah, and became friends with Amy Alcott, Hollis Stacy, Nancy Lopez was coming up. So, that was kind of my cohort. But I was accepted to school at Stanford, and I didn't have a golf scholarship. It was like a couple of years before Title IX kicked in. So I was ranked in the top 10 nationally, no golf scholarship, didn't exist. And a friend took me to Aikido class, martial arts, which was just coming into the country, into the States from Japan at that time. And I just took to Aikido and just made a huge turn and went headlong into Aikido, just, because I had the golf talent, honestly. But just, things went a different direction because I didn't have that opportunity. And then I opened my own Aikido school when I was 25 years old in San Francisco. And that's when I really started to learn to teach in a huge way. Having my own dojo was enormous. And then I had opportunities to teach nationally and internationally and be one of the kind of early pioneers of the women's martial arts movement, et cetera. So then when I was about 40, I was in San Diego, and my best friend since childhood was visiting me from Wisconsin and said, hey, I'm golfing. Would you give me a golf lesson? So I took my 7-iron and a sword. She took her golf clubs to Torrey Pines driving range, gave her, just kind of taught her a lesson that came out like this golf sensei from Aikido, be centered, be balanced, this, that. And within an hour, she was just making these beautiful swings, launching the ball. She literally fell on the ground and tossed her clubs and her legs up in the air and yelped and said, wow, this is like enlightenment. You got to teach this to the world. And I thought that was really pretty cool. So I went very quietly for about a year by myself and to driving range and started working on things. And from that, many things, but I ended up creating Ki Golf, blending my background at that point in martial arts. And, of course, I always had golf in me and psychology and peak performance training and all. And so I created Ki Golf. And I would like to give a shout out as well to Patty Benson, who was at the time the president of the LPGA Teaching and Club Professionals, the TNCP. And she said she really encouraged me to join the TNCP and, become a teaching professional. And in that way, I really came full circle back to golf and was able to integrate pretty much everything that I've been doing all my life and to bring that into golf as well, and to bring a kind of a really a holistic and a novel approach to golf, to teaching golf. So it's been, and to get back to playing myself, and, I've won some things as a senior and had just an amazing time since that, getting back to golf.
Wow. Equally as interesting backstory, Jamie. As I said before, I think it's always interesting to hear how people got where they are today. And I think there's really a lot of valuable lessons that we can take away from sharing these stories, because, we don't just all of a sudden wake up one day, and even if you have a desire or aspiration to pursue whatever career you may have, there's a lot of bumpy roads, there's a lot of trial and error and things along the way, and there's people that you meet that help navigate you in that path. And it's always interesting to hear people's stories on how they got to where they are. So thank you both for sharing that. I think that was very interesting. Paul, I'm going to come back to you, and we're going to stay on the theme of two things. And I would like for you to pick two things that you would still like to accomplish as a teacher professional. I know you're not ready to hang up your golf shoes yet, but as you look at your career thus far, as you continue to move forward, are there a couple of things that you would still like to accomplish as a teaching professional or coach? That was for you, Paul.
I'm sorry, Ted, you there?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Did you mute?
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
So it's a great question, and I think every day I go to work, I'm trying to figure out a way that I can be the best I can be for my clients, help people improve in the way that they want to improve and achieve their goals as quickly as is reasonable and as we can. And I think I think it would be really great if in the near future, sometime soon, I were able to kind of have a larger facility where I could have people come and learn in groups and practice and create kind of a learning community. It's something that I would really love to be able to do. I incorporate fitness and the mental game and all of these different things into what I do, and I think that would be a really fun thing for my next stage, in the game. And I'd still like to play some competitive golf. I think that's something that as my 4-year-old gets a little bit older, I'd like to be able to get back to doing. And my competitive background, I think, has really helped me coach my clients, just like I'm sure Jamie's has, and all of those experiences. And life has gotten very, very busy with being a father and being, a busy golf coach. And I think I would definitely like to get back to playing some more, and sharing some of those experiences with my clients. So, those would be a couple of goals. And I don't have any other really kind of hard goals for where I'm going to be going as a coach. I'm just trying to get better really every day and learn as much as I possibly can. I just got a new 3D system and joined the advisory board for 4D Motion, so I'm trying to learn new technology and doing all of those things, in an effort to be the best I can for my clients.
Well, I think those are a couple of great things to accomplish. I think we can always, as coaches and as teach professionals, I think we can always strive to learn and become better at what we do. I think that's an ongoing goal that will never cease to stop until we decide otherwise. And I think to get out there and if you've still got some of those competitive juices, as they were, still firing inside, I think it would be great for you to get out and challenge yourself once again among some of the your fellow competitors out there. Jamie, what about yourself? I know you've got a couple of things that maybe you still like to accomplish in your career as a teacher professional.
Yeah, well, I've been working on a book, and it's not specifically about golf. Golf is a lot of examples sprinkled throughout the book, and a chapter of golf is a case study of what the book is all about. And so I'm looking forward to completing that. And I started to teach online golf mastery schools, and they've just been, they've been virtual because of COVID. But I really love doing them, and they've been just tremendous growth experiences. They've been a ton of fun. I'm very passionate about bringing a much more holistic approach to golf and to the world in general, and very specifically through golf. So I want to do more golf mastery schools. I want to help people to integrate more fitness. I have a whole thing around make your golf club your health club, and an integrated body-mind approach to the mental game. So I'm really passionate about bringing that to people. Just even this year, I had quite a few pros and amateur competitors and champions who participated in my golf mastery schools, and as well as just sort of your average golfers. And it's really been exciting to see how much impact this approach, and the ways that I teach, the things that I bring in, the impact it has on people. And it's been impacting people's teaching, their playing, and that's just really exciting. So I want to just continue to make more of an impact in that way, and also to bring more people into golf. It's interesting that from COVID, golf is finally growing, right? It's a safe sport. You can do it. And so all of a sudden people are really into golf. And I found that I've been able through the years to interest people who have had no interest in golf, or like, yeah, maybe when I'm older, or, when I'm bored or something. And, 5 or 10 minutes, I start talking to them and they realize what an incredible opportunity golf presents for engaging with their whole self and with nature and the social dimensions, the business possibilities, the self-development, the sort of, you could call it the spiritual aspect or whatever, of a sport. And so, I'm excited, too, to, continue to help excite people as they come into golf, to bring them more into golf, and those who are coming into golf to have a way to really get a solid start and, just to be so excited about it. And I would say personally, my bucket list is to play more beautiful, gorgeous golf courses all over the country and the world. That would be my personal thing. I still love to play and compete, but just to get out there and play all over the place would probably be my bucket list on as far as that goes.
Yeah, I think again a couple of great things to have in your bucket list, and Paul and I talked briefly just before we came on air about golf sort of getting a jolt in the arm, if you will, as a result of this pandemic. And I think there's a lot of people that have come out that have never been involved in golf, and it'll be interesting to see how the industry handles that moving forward. When things start to settle back down, I hope that many of these people, hopefully all of them, but many of them will realize what a great game this is, and many of the opportunities, Jamie, that you mentioned in your comment there a moment ago. There's just too many really to go through them all, but there's just so many real great opportunities and doors that could be opened by golf. So hopefully we'll keep a few of them on board. But great answers, guys. I appreciate that very much. All right, Paul, I'm going to jump back up to you. And again, we got a couple more things. This time what I want you to do is I want you to reflect on yourself, and particularly, and I want you to maybe come up with a couple things. If you can't do two, one's fine, that you've learned from yourself through this journey. You've learned from others, and you've got some learning still to do, as we all do. But what are a couple of things that you've learned from yourself as you've journeyed through this career? What about yourself have you learned?
Oh, I think I've learned that I really love trying to understand people. I think when I first started as a player, it was much more about me and about trying to shoot scores and achieve goals as a player. And even when I just started coaching, and got into teaching and coaching, it was, I think, much more about trying to help people solve problems and golf swings and technique. And what I've learned, is that as I start to focus much more on or just as much, I should say, on people and understanding how each of my clients, works, what their personalities are. I think it's made the process of being a teacher and a coach much more enriching. Relationships become, start to be measured in years and instead of sessions, and I've got relationships with people now that I've known for, like 8-9 years. I've been working with some of my clients, and the more you get to know them as people and understand their personalities, it just it makes coaching so much more enjoyable. So I've started to focus a lot more on that and on the mental game and meditation. I learned to meditate about 5 years ago, and that really changed the way I approach golf and the way I approach coaching. So I would say that's the best answer I can give you there, I think, Tez.
I think that's perfect. Just before I turn it over to Jamie, it's interesting, something that I picked up from what you just said, and that is, very early on in our careers, and I think this is anything, it's not just golf, but, we tend to focus on ourselves a little bit. We're trying to think, okay, well, how can I, what can I show them? What can I do to make their experience better, which, of course, is what we ultimately want to do. But we tend to have a slightly different focus, I think, when we first get into whatever career it is. But even as golf professionals and golf instructors, we tend to, we want to show them what we know, and we want to kind of teach them what we know. But I think as we develop and as we begin to become more, seasoned in our profession, it suddenly becomes even more about the student, what we can, learn, what information we can gather from them to make it a better experience. Not so much what we can tell them, but what we can learn from them, because we've started to discover here over the last decade or so particularly that not every, swing is alike. Everybody's different. So I think as professionals, we grow as we get older, and we develop a better listening skill, if you will, and are able to, really hear what the students are saying and not just telling them what we think they need to hear. So I think we develop and grow as individuals, and I think that comes from your sort of own internal dialogue as we develop. But great answer. I like that, Paul. Jamie, what about yourself? A couple of things that you've learned from yourself.
Oh, golf is, as Michael Murphy wrote in Golf in the Kingdom, golf is an X-ray of the soul, right? And so, I just think we learn so much about ourselves, and I've certainly seen my challenges to kind of control my mind and my emotions, and to really be more centered and grounded, and to manage things and all of that. As an instructor, I think I've really kind of honed in on how much I love the communication challenge, to be aware of how to see what's going on with somebody, to be tuned into them, to be tuned into their learning styles and metaphors, things that make sense to them, and are they more visual and kinesthetic or auditory, those kinds of things. But I just really do love that challenge, that interaction with every student and also with groups, to keep people engaged, to keep people excited, to see when people get something and how rewarding that is, how exciting that is, improvements they make, the light bulbs that go on. And also for me, in fact, on Saturday I'm giving a talk at this International Embodiment Conference it's called Bringing Somatics, body. Soma means the body. Bringing somatics to like mainstream society. And I've kind of been doing that in golf, which is to be bringing a more, when I say holistic, a more body-mind approach, understanding the energy dynamics in the golf swing and in the whole body-mind system as we're swinging a club and dealing with the challenges on the golf course or in competition, and to kind of bring a heightened awareness of that and to make that something that's very sort of mainstream. This isn't alternative, this isn't woo-woo, this isn't new age, this is kind of the way it is, and it just fills out the experience of golfing, the experience of learning to golf, of golf improvement, of teaching, of communicating in golf. And so, I really see how much that is my passion and how much it strikes chords in people, and people you wouldn't even think, like, I've had many opportunities to teach seniors and around the country, not places that are, California hip or something like that. And to just see that, coming along and talking about this stuff and having people much more connected to their bodies and their breath and their balance and their center and their left and right sides and their connection and their energy flow instead of a kind of a brute force muscle power. And I just see people light up, people you wouldn't expect to, to see that resonance and to go, wow, this is what's in people. This is what's in golf. This is what it's about. And so, of course, people light up when given the opportunity. So I see how much I like to be giving that opportunity, shall we say.
Well, and I think it again goes to, as teacher professionals and coaches, it's not all about just, explaining the intricacies of the golf swing and what you need to do and what you don't need to do. It's about helping them to understand the experience that you can have with golf. Golf has so many different layers, if you will. It's not just about going out there and shooting your best score. It's about enjoying the moments that you're out there. I mean, what other sport do you have an opportunity to spend 4 hours enjoying some of the best that nature has to offer? Think of the not only the visual effects that we get from golf, but also the sounds that we get from golf. And I'm not talking about the guy that just hit a bad shot 2 fairways over and is yelling, all kinds of obscenities out there. But, there's one with nature. We have a lot of great opportunities to, in all areas of the country and around the world to see all kinds of different ways that nature can be embraced in the golf industry. So it's a it can be very soothing. It certainly can be frustrating, as we all know, but that's one of the challenges, and that's one of the things about golf that makes it interesting, is that it is very challenging, and it is a very personal experience. It's one of the very few games out there that it's you against the elements, and you're not, even though you might be playing against somebody or in a foursome and you're challenging one another, it's all up to you. You don't have anyone there helping you along the way. It's all you. And I think as golf instructors and coaches, we have an opportunity to share some of that experience through our playing lessons and other areas, and hopefully with many of the new golfers that are coming on board right now that are trying it for the first time, I hope that they're taking in that experience and don't be frustrated. It's difficult even for the best of us out there, and I think you'll learn as you continue on that journey.
Ted,
all right, Paul, I'm going to come back. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jamie.
I just wanted to give a little example. Like I was thinking of several of my students who have been in their 70s or 80s, and they're so frustrated they can't hit the ball very far and all of that. And it's like, where are they going to get more like oomph to do it? And some of the exercises I teach from Bliss, balance, lengthen, integrate, stretch, strengthen. Some exercises that just help them to strengthen their hips and their hip flexors and their glutes, to straighten their arms out more. They didn't realize that their elbows have gotten kind of tight and shortened muscles. And so, just to be able to get a little bit more strength, a little in their legs, a little more balance, a little more extension by stretching out those elbows a little bit more. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, the ball just went another 5, 10, 20 yards. And it wasn't because they, somehow ate Wheaties when they were, 80 years old. And they go, wow, that, this is, and they're getting a little bit more extension and speed. And then they have better balance and they're feeling like they're not about to fall. And even for newer players who they may not have trouble from age or whatever with their elbows, but they're bending their elbows and they're, they just don't understand the concept of extension and they're trying to scoop and all that. And, just okay, that's how that works. Wow. And look at the effects. That's giving me more accuracy. That's giving me some more yardage. And to make those connections between what's happening in their bodies, some new awareness, some exercises they can do, and some ways that they can actually put that into their swing motion. And then you compare that, say, to a really, a little handicap or a tour player and go, see what the position they're in. And, you're starting to get into that position more because you have more awareness or you have more physical ability. And then they see the results. That's what's so great about golf, right? Every shot you hit, you get feedback and you can see what happened. And so, that stuff's just so exciting, and to make those connections and to see people gain those kinds of capabilities, and to see that also we can gain capabilities at any age and regain capabilities if there's been an injury or if it's from age or whatever it might be. It's just, it's just really, it's thrilling, actually. It's a very exciting and rewarding thing.
And that just goes to one of the points that I was making this is that really golf is something really for everybody, and it's one of the very few games out there that you can play whether you're very young or old. It's one of those games that allows you and affords you that opportunity. So don't be afraid if you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s and you think that you can't do it. Not true. There's plenty in your age brackets that are out there every day swinging it on the links. Great. Thank you for that. Those points, Jamie. Thank you, Paul. I want to come back to you, and again, this time we're going to turn it on the students for a second, and that is 2 things you want your students to take away from your teaching, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an individual lesson, but something that you want, a couple of things that you want your students to take away from working with you. What is the main things that you want them to take away?
I think, one of the big things is that there are so many diverse skills involved in playing good golf. And I think so many, large number of clients who, when we first start working together, are so focused on their golf swing. And it's important to be able to advance the ball and have it not go in completely unpredictable directions when you're out playing. And it's important to have a golf swing that produces a ball flight that you can sort of count on. But golf is an adventure. You go to the golf course every day and you don't know where the ball's going to go, and it's not predictable, even for the best players in the world. And I think, for people to see the game as that, and really embrace working on all of the different skills that they need to play great golf, from controlling your thought process and your emotions to short game putting, all of the different things that contribute to shooting good scores. That's stuff that I really try to emphasize with everybody I work with. And I think the other thing is just understanding the body swing connection, from a kind of a TPI standpoint. That's the training that I have, and the way our bodies function has such a huge effect on how you swing the golf club. And we are all very unique. We're unique in the way all of our joints are aligned and work. We're unique in our mobility and balance. And if you can start to understand how your body works and improve the things that you can improve, it makes improving your golf swing much easier. You'll be free from injury. You'll be able to play golf more. You'll have more energy at the end of your rounds. You'll be able to finish rounds better. And the game just becomes so much more enjoyable. So, I'd say those 2 things are right up there as some of the stuff that I would really like my clients to take away from our work together.
Again, a great perspective, Paul. Thank you for sharing that, and I couldn't agree on both points more wholeheartedly. Jamie, what about yourself? A couple of things that you want your students to take away from working with you?
I think the first would be having a much greater sense of presence in their own body and connection. So feeling a sense of connection, first with themselves, all the way that, as Paul was saying, the ways that, the body moves in harmony, body parts move in certain sequence and rhythm and timing from the lower to the upper body, a sense of harmony and connection in their golf swing. And that starts with them, and they're in charge of that. And, we can teach things and we can practice them, but so, it would be learning that heightened sense of connection. Also the connectedness with the golf course, the contours of the golf course, which way the wind's blowing, all these kinds of things. So, and being connected with the playing partners, with the whole experience. So I think it's about presence and connection, and that kind of leads into the other, which would be a sense of self-mastery. That, we really we're each in charge of our own body, our mind, our emotions, and we want to have greater awareness of them, and then how to work with them. How do we work with our mind and our emotions, and how how does being in our body, how can that affect how we can calm our emotions or, channel our thoughts in positive, productive ways. That, these things all interact, right? We're not just a separate body, a separate mind. There's not a mental game over here and a physical techniques over here. So I would say that heightened sense of connection and presence, really being in your body and taking charge of your own faculties, because we each as human beings have 4 faculties, and they're called our body, mind, emotions, and spirit, and they need to work in harmony. That's the I in Aikido or Ki golf, is that unity, that unison, that synchronization, and that we can get better and better at that. And that as we do those things, we finish our round of golf, we put our golf clothes back in the trunk or whatever, and boom, here we are in our life, yeah? And so how can we carry that over into who we are and how we do everything in relationship, personal relationships, work relationships, whatever it is, because this is life, and in that sense, golf is very much life, and we can use our practice and our playing of the game to help us with that.
Again, I couldn't agree more. It's always interesting when, we sort of unpack golf a little bit differently and, remove the swing, as it were, and look at all the other components that golf makes up. And it's a very, as I said, a very interesting game. The swing is just but one part of it. There's so much more as, we've started to learn more and more, not only about how the body works and how that part of it comes together and helps to make things a little bit easier to understand and accomplish some of the tasks that are needed in order to enjoy this game from a physical standpoint, but the aspects mentally that have opened up over the years as we begin to understand a little bit more about our mind and body connection. So some great points. I've just got one more question, and I was thinking about this, and this was sort of to what we were talking about in the very beginning, and that is with, sort of a newfound growth in the game, spawned from, of course, this pandemic, which is, don't want to take away from it. It's been very, very tragic for some folks out there, and certainly been very unsettling for many others. But golf has certainly been very fortunate through this difficult time and has seen quite a substantial uptick in people coming out and playing, as particularly people from areas that have never been involved in any way, shape, and form of golf have come out of the house, so to speak, to be able to just to get out and do something. So my question to you guys is this, and again, I'll start with Paul and then Jamie, and maybe a couple of things that you would like to see change in the golf industry in order to facilitate this growth. In other words, what could we do differently as an industry, maybe that we haven't done in the past, to keep some of these new people in the game and not just treat it as a momentarily thing in our industry? What are some options that you think we could do as an industry to keep some of these folks engaged in golf?
I think that relaxing some of the rules that we encounter at the golf course would be a really good place to start. Worrying less about what people are wearing, making sure that people feel welcome, and that golf is an inclusive instead of an exclusive sport would be a really big help. And I think as an industry, if we can figure out ways to create more learning opportunities, more affordable learning opportunities, ways to help players develop over the long haul so that we can keep them feeling as though there's always room for growth in their game and things to learn, and making that kind of an integral part of every golf course, every facility that they go to, so that people can learn how to play, learn how to enjoy the game, and that it can be attainable. I think those are things that would really help the industry and operators capitalize on all of this interest that we see in the game right now. Because post-COVID, there's going to be some competition again for people's recreation, and and we need to be able to, get people to stay involved and make it something that they want to continue doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, as you suggest, I think relaxing the rules a little bit, and that's not to say to do away with them. Certainly altogether, we have to have rules in the game. But I agree. I think we need to relax some of them a little bit. We have to be mindful of slow play. So there's, certainly rules that could be adjusted or modified to help speed the game up a little bit. And I think that would be certainly a good start. And again, making it more inclusive as opposed to exclusive would be another thing to start. Jamie, what about yourself? I'm sure you probably agree with some of what Paul said, but maybe you have some other thoughts as well on how we can really make some changes in the industry to get more people not just to come out and play, but keep more people out of the golf course. What are some options?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with some of the points that Paul and you have made. I think it's so important that golf is more welcoming and that it's more inclusive, it's more diverse, and it's more affordable. Some of that has to do with time and money investment. And golf has for so long been more of an elite sport and a very expensive sport. So, we've been working on that through time, but I think that has to maybe go through a real evolution so that, the whole image of golf needs to change. Things may be possible where club manufacturers and clothing and golf shoes and all, maybe they team up with golf facilities. And particularly right now, as people are starting to play golf, if, you could, together, it could create packages where you get, for X amount, you get lessons, you get some, beginner clubs, whatever, but that you make it so that people have put some kind of investment, but they've got the equipment. Once you got the equipment, you want to use it, right? For example, in martial arts, there's a lot of dojos and schools that create like a 1 month or 3 month package, and then you sign up for that, and then you get a free uniform and blah, 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 X amount of special lessons. And so, you want to give people something in the beginning, particularly new people, that's going to, first of all, ensure that they have success because you're giving them enough instruction and they're getting kind of incorporated into the scene. And they've also got some of the equipment that they need, right? And, I mean, when you got your clubs, you want to use them. You got your shoes, you want to wear them, right? So I think that it's really an opportunity for club manufacturers and facilities maybe to get away from their own separated profit-making models to how can we team up here and make this a real win-win where we're going to actually bring people in a way that's going to help them stick. Because, as you said, as soon as people can get out there and do all their other sports, golf is going to lose some of the supercharge that it's got at the moment. But if we can get people really into golf in a successful way, I think that's important. The other thing is I just actually posted an article I saw that I guess Tiger is into golf course design, and he's really focused on executive par 3 kinds of courses in a way to make golf where the time investment, the money investment is less, and it's actually more doable. And I thought back on it, and that's actually the way I started. We had a little par 3 golf course over Lake Michigan in Milwaukee, and just getting going on a course that was manageable, could learn the essential skills, 100, 150 yard in, the short game, putting, and to have more opportunities where people can afford the time and the money that it takes to play golf and to get out there and. Let's say they do get back to playing their other sports, but hey, you know what? 1, 2, 3 hours, I could go out and play this beautiful little course. That'd be great. We'll keep them in the game.
I have to say that Tiger must have been listening to Golf Talk Live because I have been saying that very same thing, Jamie, about par 3 courses. So I'm not trying to steal your credit, Tiger, but I think you owe me some props here. I've said the same thing. Jamie, in fact, just very quickly, I want to add just a couple of points as well. I grew up the same way. My father was the one that taught me this great game when I was very, very young. I was about 7 years old, the same as you, Jamie, when I first was taught this game. And my father was a member of a local country club, and it was a very, prestigious club. And I remember him saying to me, one day we're going to come out here and I'm going to let you play on this course with me and that. But for now, we're going to learn the game somewhere else. And so, there was a great practice facility, not at that course, but down the street that had an adjacent par 3 executive course. And it had 18 holes. And that's for the first few years. That's where I learned this game. In fact, I was not allowed to go to the country club until he felt confident. Not that I could be a great player or anything like that. He just wanted to make sure that I understood what I needed to understand before he would take me, as he used to put it, to the big boys course. And I think that, and I've said this for years, I think one of the problems that we faced is a lot of the golf purists out there that are afraid of change in the game. So let me just clarify. We don't need to get rid of golf as it is now. We need to add to it. So in other words, the tours are not going to go away. The country clubs certainly are not going to go away entirely, and the resorts are not going to go away. But we have to have another model in golf that the everyday amateur can grapple to and can come to and enjoy this great game. Because the truth of the matter is, when you're building courses that are, 7,000 yards plus, 90% of the population can't handle them. They don't have the skill. They don't have the ability. And this is why you have so many people that get frustrated, because the courses are just too long. They're not able to learn the skills that they need to be able to handle those courses. And they can get lessons from now until the second coming. But the truth of the matter is, they need to be educated in such a way. And to go to your point, Jamie, as well, is the cost factor. Golf is still very, very expensive in many ways. I can go to my local sporting goods store and I can pick up a tennis racket and a sleeve of tennis balls for not much more than $20. And I can go up and I can play tennis at many tennis courts for free. I can't do that with golf. So I agree that the manufacturers and the courses need to find ways to work together, to partner with one another and say, we're going to help provide some equipment for the courses so that the everyday folks, and I know there are some available, but it's not enough. And we have to relax the dress code a little bit, let people come a little bit more. I mean, obviously you have to have some restrictions. You can't have people, out there not wearing anything, as much as some might enjoy that. But, you have to have some dress code. But you can relax that a bit, and some places have done that already, and it's been very, very successful. It's helped to make others feel a little more welcome. So there's a lot of things that we can do without having to get rid of what we understand the initial experiences that many people have had with golf. So there's room for more. There's room for growth, in other words, and every industry has done that. Unfortunately, golf has still been a little bit behind the gate on that. And although golf is competitive, it doesn't always have to be competitive. There's a lot of great junior programs. There's a lot of other mini tours and things out there. That's great for those that won't have those competitive juices in there. But for the everyday person that just wants to go out and have a great experience and have a few laughs with their friends and stuff, it doesn't have to be so complicated and so overwhelming that it scares them away. So if we're going to bring more people into this game and keep them in this game, we have to make it so that it's accessible for everybody, and that it's provides some challenges for those that want challenges and less challenging for those that just want to go out and have some fun and don't want to feel intimidated or feel threatened that they're going to make a fool of themselves. And that's very simple to do with some of the suggestions that you guys have made. Great discussion tonight, guys. I want to thank you as always, and I'm going to give you each an opportunity. I'm going to go reverse order this time. Jamie, you can go first, and then Paul, let the folks know if they want to reach out to you, the best way that they can do that.
Well, thank you, Ted. This has really been a fun discussion, and thank you, Paul. It's really been good. People can reach me through my website at thecenteredway.com. It's centered, ED, The Centered Way, or KiaiGolf.com, KIAI take you to the same place, or Jamie at KiaiGolf.com. If you want to email me, I always say this, that I actually enjoy talking to people, and I answer my phone. I return messages. So 760-492-GOLF. 760-492-4653 is a way to reach me. I teach all kinds of, seminars, lessons, doing a lot of things virtually these days, obviously. And also on Facebook, on LinkedIn, possible to find me. And, so many possibilities. And I also do a lot of speaking, and I do corporate work and where business meets the green, blending golf and business, a lot of women's empowerment, women's leadership, blending golf and leadership, fitness. So a lot of possibilities in some of the ways that I tailor individual and group training. So, feel free to get in touch with me. I always love to connect with people and to work together and play together.
Perfect. Thank you, Jamie. And Paul, what about yourself? Best way that folks, if they want to reach out to you, that they can get in touch?
Ted, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on, and I really enjoyed the conversation tonight, and Jamie as well. This is great. So my website's paulcastergolf.com. My email is paul@paulcastergolf.com. You can find me on social media on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook as well. And I also have a new app on the App Store, which is Paul Caster Golf Coaching. I do a fair amount of remote coaching and in-person training as well at my studio in Little Silver, New Jersey, and at Jumping Brook Country Club, where I was fortunate to spend the day today doing some playing lessons. So thank you very much, Ted. I appreciate you having us both on.
All right. Well, guys, thank you once again for coming on tonight in the Coach's Corner panel. I hope you guys enjoyed this evening's discussion, and I look forward to the next time. And on that note, have a great weekend, and I will see you guys next time on the Coach's Corner panel.
Awesome. Thank you. Keep swinging. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All right. That was Paul Caster and Jamie Leno-Zimron here tonight on the Coach's Corner panel on Golf Talk Live. Always like to have an interesting conversation and share from the coach's perspective a little bit about how they got into the game. And I thought this was an interesting discussion tonight about how not only how they got into the game, but how they got to where they are today, and some of their thoughts on where they see the game growing and what we can do to help make some positive changes to move the game forward. So always glad to have that discussion here on the panel. All right, my very special guest, I see he's ready, so I'm going to just let everybody know a little bit about him, and then I will bring him on for my very special guest. Of course, I'm talking about Rich Kosowsky. He is the CEO of PerfectMotion. He brings 30-plus years of management, technology development, and financing expertise from successful companies, including Qualcomm and 411 Yahoo. Rich has founded and run numerous early-stage tech companies and has mentored startups for 15-plus years at MIT's Venture Mentoring Service. So please welcome my very special guest, the CEO of PerfectMotion, Rich Kosowsky. Good evening, Rich,
Hi,
and welcome
Ted.
to Golf Talk Live.
Thank you, Ted. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to our discussion.
Well, I appreciate it. So let me ask you, I guess, first before we get into talking about PerfectMotion, why golf? I mean, you obviously have a very extensive background with technology and so forth. You've, again, mentored many startups and that. What was it about the golf industry that sort of attracted you to want to do what you're doing now?
Great question. I've been passionate about golf for a long time, and I belong to a club here in outside of Boston, Weston Golf Club, and a great instructor and also friend, a guy named Tim Tierney, was my coach. And after I sort of finished one of my gigs, one of my startups, I was sort of looking for the next thing, and I sort of got with him and said, hey, maybe we could figure something out. You're an expert at instruction. He's sort of the golf whisperer. He can relax anybody in a moment's, and just a great knowledge, great lineage of instruction. And so, he had a couple of ideas. We picked one that seemed interesting, involving sort of body motion, and came up with I developed a product based on that. And we figured we'd give it a shot. And the characteristics of the golf market are unique. Golfers spend a lot of money. Right. They're passionate. You know the numbers. Half the 25 million golfers are avid. So we figured it would be interesting to try to apply some technology. So that's really how I got into it. And then through a shift, our first product was a little expensive. And what I did is try to redesign it to have sensors that talk to an app, right, like everybody else. And then we had an aha moment that said, gee, what happens if instead of sensors we could just use the optics of the camera of a smartphone? Mm-hmm. And to be honest, we really had no idea whether that would work or not. And it's really blossomed into something sort of amazing for us from a technology perspective. But more importantly, it's a great way for folks to improve their golf game.
And that's what we talked about earlier on the earlier segment, Coach's Corner. I made the comment that handicaps for many golfers have not changed in several decades. So it's been a continual, perpetual struggling, if you will. So they're always, as you said, the golfers are very enthusiastic and always looking for some way of bringing that handicap down. So before we unpack everything, let's start first and foremost. I'm right.
Yeah. I've got a great story about that that maybe we'll get to. But go ahead.
I'll tell you what. Go ahead and share that. Go ahead and share that, and then we'll start talking about PerfectMotion.
Okay, well, I'll try to make it quick. I was a guest speaker for a business class at a nearby college, and they wanted me to talk about whatever I wanted. It was entrepreneurs and some finance people, and I chose really the one key thread with my whole talk was serendipity, the serendipity of startups, because you always come up with ideas that you think and you always shift, because once you get out there you learn. And things change, and things like COVID happen. So there are all sorts of different sort of pressures and whatnot. But where we started and where we ended up, it's never a straight line. And I sort of posed the question to the students, exactly that. Okay, how much has the average handicap dropped over the last 30 years with the advent of all the different types of technology in the club, the head, the ball, all the explosion of instructional videos, the ability, all TrackMan and those sort of launch monitors, and then all these three-dimensional suits that can track everything about motion. How much? What percentage? And of course, like you said, everybody guesses, 20, 25, and it's zero. And the point of the story was, well, we think the reason that is because there's something missing in instruction, and it's not the instructor's fault. It's the way our body moves. And it's quite simply that what you need is a method to learn. So instruction's great, but you need a method to learn. And in essence, that's what we've sort of wound up creating. So it wasn't that we started that way. We started as a technology to help detect, but what we've sort of ended up is really, we think, the missing piece in instruction. So anyway, that was the story, and it does obviously lead into PerfectMotion, but
yeah, and you're exactly right. This has been sort of the Achilles heel of the golf industry, and that is the inability to move the needle. I mean, as golf professionals and coaches, we've tried for years, and again, of no fault of our own, with different techniques and different theories and gadgets and gizmos. I mean, I know plenty of senior golfers that have a garage full of of stuff out there that has, has collecting dust and has probably even helped the divorce rate a little bit, and not cleaning it out. So, that's just my take on it. So let's talk about you again. I'm right. So let's talk about PerfectMotion. Tell us what it's all about first and foremost.
Okay. Yeah. So at the very simplest, what we are is a personalized AI-based golf training system that allows golfers to quickly develop proper body motion with every club in the bag through an innovative process of continuous expert feedback. That was a lot. And the other thing that's and I'm going to get more into that, but the other thing that's very unique is that the app allows golfers to train anywhere, anytime, with or without a ball, in fact, even without a club, while receiving the same expert guidance on every swing and putt as though you were in front of an instructor. And all they need is their phone. There's nothing else. So that's sort of how we start. And let me explain a little about continuous expert feedback because it sort of ties into what I was just talking about. And by the way, eventually I think we should talk about muscle memory because that's, of course, a big part of why it's so hard to get better. So continuous expert feedback is really the way we learn. Think of a loop. So you start by taking a swing. You receive feedback immediately. And then based on that feedback, you make an adjustment. And then you repeat. Mm-hmm. And you keep repeating until the feedback tells you things are good, and the result, if you're hitting a ball, gets better. It's like you're on the box, right? That's sort of the way it works. Well, this trial and error method, this swing, learn, adjust, right, will quickly allow you to feel correct motion. And the bottom line is we don't learn from video. We learn from trying and experimenting. So the video is instructional, and then we have to try it. But what you need is that feedback. I mean, if you just go and hit balls, you're more likely reinforcing bad habits than improving. So another way to think about this continuous expert feedback is, again, it's like a virtual on-the-box experience. So it's, you take a swing, the instructor gives you feedback, you make an adjustment, you take another swing. That's really what we're emulating. And the great thing is that that because the instructor, and you can choose an instructor for free, customizes the app to each student and provides custom fix videos for each fault that we detect with your motion, the golfer receives a single voice of instruction. So again, it really is just like an on-the-box experience. But now you can have it anywhere, anytime. And I will say golfers have really enjoyed it, and they get better.
Well, and you're exactly right. You have to, and this I'm sure you can explain some of the differences because there's obviously a lot of apps out there. There's a lot of video-based apps, and to go to your point earlier, it's great we can watch our own video of our own swing, or we can watch, the latest and greatest on the PGA professionals to see what they're doing. But until we actually get out there and do it ourselves, and through trial and error, we're not really going to see improvement just by watching somebody. We're not. So that's really what a lot of the difference between the video-based apps out there is that they're just showing you what a good swing might look like or what's been successful for that person, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good for you. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I love the way you summarized that. I mean, really, I almost think of it, it's really the difference between instruction and learning, just like you said. Videos are great for instruction, but the learning process is about trial and error, and you really need immediate feedback and the ability to adjust, and then quickly you start to groove the proper technique. And it's amazing how quickly you will end up with better contact, which of course is more accuracy and added distance. So it sort of all feeds on itself. And the thing is, as soon as you have to take a video and then upload it and wait for an analysis, you're not continuous, right? You don't have that loop. Right, and we're really the only system that provides that true immediate feedback on every swing, which we would claim is the necessary feature. And by the way, the feedback has to be, informative, but it has to be simple to digest and act upon, which is sort of exactly what our fault detection and what we call motion maps provide. So that's one of the other keys to our innovation that makes us very different from video apps.
What about motion map? Tell us a little bit about that. What does that do?
Okay, well, so again, part of our sort of patent pending technology is something that we call a motion map, which is really just a new and concise representation of a swing. It really provides your unique motion signature. So let me explain. A motion map has two parts. First is a diagnosis of the swing. So we track your body motion using AI, determine if you had issues with your motion, and then tell you what it is. For instance, you swayed, or you came out of posture, or you lifted your arms, or you were too far forward at impact. Those are faults, and so it tells you the fault. By the way, by priority, because you may have more than one issue. It explains it, and then it provides a custom video fix to help eliminate the issue. So that's the first part, but the other part is that includes a precise trace of your core body motion. So the best way to think about this, and this is maybe hard, I'm going to try to help people visualize, is imagine a dot on your chest, like near your neck, and that as you get ready at address, we find that dot, even though there isn't any dot, a virtual dot. And as you go through from address to the top of your swing through impact, we track that dot's motion, and we take that trace and we map it onto a 1-inch grid, and that's some of the feedback we give you. Now, you'll have to sort of take my word for it, because when you see this, and there are lots of videos that help explain it, but it really is as simple as 1, 2, 3, because on the actual trace, 1 marks your position at address, 2 marks your position at the top of the swing, and 3 marks your position at the top of the backswing, and 3 marks your position at impact. And that simple 2-dimensional view is so easy to understand, and more importantly, provides the feedback golfers need to make adjustments and improvements. And you sort of just got to try it to believe it. But, we're taking actually 3-dimensional data and all sorts of orientation information about the body and the motion, and distilling it down to a simple thing that you can react to. And for example, let's say you were lifting your arms, which means on your backswing, which means that this often happens because you're not rotating your hips. Instead of rotating, you lift up, and your body comes up as you lift your arms, as opposed to rotating correctly. And so what happens with that is that we pick that up right away. Now that you know you're doing that, there are a whole bunch of very simple ways to fix it. And in fact, you probably want to fix it by training without a ball, which is sort of another thing that we do uniquely. But well, maybe we should talk about that actually, because that may be something that sort of ties right into this.
And I want to just quickly go back just for one quick second to make a point about your motion map. What's unique about that from a golf instructor's point of view is obviously if we're making the correct again we're not doing this visually, and we'll send everybody to the website when we're done so that they can go and see some of the great videos that you guys have. But what I want to help understand is with this motion map, you're able to identify those positions if they're correct or not, because obviously as you said, that point sort of at the base of your neck and your chest area where it necks, position 1. If you're lifting, then position 2, if you will, is going to be off. It's going to be askew because you're not rotating correctly into your backswing. So you're going to be able to pick that up with motion map. And again, obviously, same thing as when you're into impact position. So that's critically important because a lot of people obviously fall into that trap and don't swing correctly, this allows you to be able to see that very quickly and identify some of the issues. Let's talk about, as you were starting to, about practicing without a ball. We see lots of guys taking swings at the driving range, hitting balls all over the place, not getting much results.
Yep.
How could we train without a ball and yet still get results?
Yeah. So again, we're a really big proponent of what we call no ball. And again, one of the big benefits of the app, right, is you can train anywhere with or without a ball or even a club. And there's this really huge benefit of being able to practice without a ball. There was a recent story on Dustin Johnson in Golf Digest that focused on DJ's use of a mirror and air swings to perfect his swing. And and he's not the only one. Like, better players and instructors understand sort of the benefit of practicing without a ball to help groove their motion, right? I mean, that's the idea. The problem is most of the time, or really all the time, the only option for working without a ball is like a practice swing, and that doesn't help. There's no feedback. So you really have no idea what you're doing. Well, because of the technology we've developed and the fact that even though you're not hitting a ball, we can determine when you would have had impact. We
Right.
can give you the exact same feedback as though you hit a ball. And that's really important, but it turns out really muscle memory and that concept is really what begs you to train without a ball. I mean, muscle memory and the way it all works and is really why so many instructors want or have motion drills, right? That's what they do. They develop motion drills so you can learn the correct motion without the distraction of the ball.
Well, and also, Rich, too, just to stop you for just a second, and then I'll let you continue. But with muscle memory, and again with the technology that you're using in your app, is again without even the benefit of hitting a golf ball, you're able to identify exactly the positions that the golfers are getting into at impact and in the backswing, as we mentioned. So you're able to see whether or not they're transitioning correctly. So even if there was a ball there, you're going to be able to tell with basically a bird's eye view, without even seeing them hit the ball, whether or not they got into the correct position. Am I right?
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, and let me sort of feed on that and sort of get into the whole muscle memory, because there's a lot of fun things about the app that we've discovered. I mean, it really is sort of in some ways a voyage of discovery for all of us, including all the instructors that are using it. And we'll get into that later. But I think most people understand the concept of muscle memory, but with the app, it's so easy to demonstrate it. And by the way, the app's free to download and use for 2 weeks, and then it's only $6 a month. So, but I challenge people to download and try this, and literally take 5 swings with the app without a ball. In fact, you don't even need a club, right? And the app walks you through all this stuff, so it's really easy. And then take a look at the resulting motion maps. And we have a view, once you finish sort of a session of swings, you're presented with a mini version of the map, so you can compare swings. And by the way, all this happens immediately. There's no delays. And what you'll see, I guarantee it, is 5, if you take 5 swings, take 5 traces of your body's motion, and they will be virtually identical. And this happens with everybody that uses the app. So in other words, we can actually, in essence, prove muscle memory. That's your body's motion. And the problem is if the motion is such that it's introducing inconsistencies because you have to make adjustments because you're not using the biomechanics and physics optimally, then you need to change that motion. And here's where we get with what the missing piece of instruction. In order to change a grooved pattern, the first and foremost you need to be aware of it. Then you need a method to fix it, but then you need a method to learn it. And once you learn it, you need the reps to regroove a new motion. And the best way to regroove is without a ball, because then there's no pressure or distraction of the ball, and you can actually learn the motion correctly. And then once you've established through reps, regroove the motion, then you can take it to the range, and then you take it to the course. So it's really sort of a natural progression. But really, you need, see this, and it gets back to the problem with instruction. You go have a lesson on the box, and most of the time, I'm sure your great instructor will fix whatever's your problem and get you to hit the ball better. But 2 days later, you're back to your usual groove. And see, you need a system, and you need a system that's convenient, that's easy to use, but also allows you to train whenever you want, to train that new motion. And that's why people are having such success with the product, because of that. It's really training new motion without a ball.
Well, in a sense, you're creating a new muscle memory. I mean, it's as you said before. If you're swinging incorrectly 1,000 times, you're never going to improve until you change that swing movement to a correct position. And now you've got to do it 1,000 times. In a sense, you've got to create a new muscle memory. I mean, that's just a sort of an edited version, but essentially that's the theory. Is if you've been playing for 25 years and you're swinging the same way, and again, it doesn't have to be picture perfect. We understand everybody's body type is different. But if the fundamentals, if the biomechanics of the golf swing are essentially the same for everybody, impact is the same position for everybody, just because you're tall or short or large or small, impact is impact. And the problem is that if you've been grooving an incorrect muscle memory for 25 years and wonder why your handicap hasn't changed, if you're doing that same thing for another 25 years, you're going to have the same result. So what you're saying with the app is it allows you to get the feedback that you need instantly to let you know whether you are doing the things correctly or not, and then you're able to then progress by making the necessary changes to do it correctly and then create new memory.
Well said. I couldn't have said it better. Ted, that was fantastic. No, really, that really is it. I mean, that's sort of in essence why that continuous expert feedback and the notion of training anywhere is so combined really create something powerful. And by the way, fun.
Well,
I mean, it's sort of fun to use the app.
You have to have fun at golf. I mean, it gets boring, going to the range all the time and just raking and hitting balls. You've got to make it interesting.
Right.
And I think what one of the problems that a lot of golfers have is, and as instructors we see this, is even if we're showing them the correct movements, the problem is if they're not putting them in practice for the next 2 weeks and then they come back and see us, they've still ingrained those bad memories, or they're still holding on to those bad muscle memories because they haven't been working on the things correctly that we've taught them to. So that's the other dilemma. So now what the app is going to do, we're going to get into about instruction in here in just a second. But if they're not working on the things that they need to work on when they're away from us, then they're not going to improve either. So let me ask you, when it comes to instructors, how is this going to change from that perspective? Are we going to need instructors anymore, or is this a tool that they can use with their students to help ingrain some of these great muscle memories?
Well, again, Ted, a great question, and we want to make it very clear that the best way for you to improve your golf game is through the expertise of an instructor, and no app will ever replace that. And really, what we've talked about, PerfectMotion, is this notion of really a self-guided process that really doesn't require trips to the lesson tee, if you will. But really, I'd say the most powerful component of what we've put together is immediate access to top-tier golf instructor and golf instruction. One of the first things you do when you download the app is you choose a coach for free, and you immediately get access to that instructor's customized video fixes for each fault, so that right away you're getting a single voice of guidance and instruction. But if you really want to speed your improvement, the app creates really a new type of real-time connection with your coach. So we have, a dozen or so top instructors already on the platform, and there's lots more coming. And the reason they're working with us is because the app actually becomes an extension of them. So the way it works is you choose Joe Hallett or Chip Beck or Jake Thurm, and suddenly now they're your instructor, and they give you the tips as part of that feedback loop, and you see how it works. And if things are working, then you have an ability to actually have a further relationship with the coach and allow them to guide you really on a weekly basis to focus specifically on your issues through the app and allow you to progress and really speed your improvement. So what we've done is really create a platform that's ideal for remote coaching, and there's a lot of characteristics that again make it really, really beneficial. But we believe, our motto is better golf through expert guidance, and that's really the instructor's guidance along with our AI detection.
I think the other thing, Rich, too, that comes to mind for me is this is a great tool for students particularly when they're away from their coach, because again, a lot of folks, they'll come for a lesson and we'll videotape it and we'll put them through all the motions and whatnot, and they're great in that 30 minutes to an hour. But now they've gone for a couple of weeks, they've got nothing really to give them that feedback. They don't have our feedback anymore. So this really allows them to stay connected with not only a coach, but also with that instant feedback. So if they go and work on things, they can use the app in real time, and they can get that feedback, and then again continue grooving that good muscle memory instead of just making the same repeatable mistakes that they've been doing for however long. So that's another real benefit as well, is it gives them that instant feedback and access when they're away from their coach.
And to add to this, the app is great if even if you're let's say you take a lesson every other week, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So you have an in-person relationship. This is perfect because at the end of every lesson, you're given some sort of marching order, right? Here's what you should work on. Right. And the app can then handle that for the next couple of weeks until you're back in front. By the way, the app really does hold the student accountable in the sense that your coach has, the app shows you results, shows you all sorts of results. We're data scientists, right? We can slice and dice data. Right. All sorts. But the important thing is all we're really trying to do is help you get better at golf. So what do? The app trains you in a session by session. You choose a club. You choose, generally it's either 5 or 10 swings. If you've had a previous session, you may have a focus, like eliminating lifting arms. Then you get in, you start using the app for that session, and you get feedback relative to the focus. Again, one thing at a time. At the end of the session, not only do we give you feedback on each individual swing, we summarize and give you a grade based on the focus that you're trying to eliminate, the issue, and then we give you a new focus, or we move you up automatically to the next level. There are 3 levels. And so, or maybe there's a different, maybe you've eliminated one thing, but now there's a new thing, and that's your new focus. But the idea is, just like an instructor, we try to focus you one thing at a time and have you progress and see progress, and then you're off to the next thing. And this happens independently on every club because, of course, You may be great at drives and irons, but your chipping just isn't there. And
right.
so again, independently, the app does that. So now, in conjunction with an instructor, they can direct you and say, this week, let's just work on your irons. And I know you've had an issue because you haven't had enough side bend at impact. So let's just focus on that. And in fact, he can override the app, the AI, and say, that's all you're going to work on this week. And that's what, and he can see when you've been working or when you haven't, so that when you get back there, he knows exactly where you are and whether you made progress or not. And it's not to police you as much as to understand where you are, so that the instructor can help you get better or improve.
Well, and there's nothing more frustrating as an instructor, knowing that your student isn't. I mean, one of the biggest pet peeves in the golf industry is when a student comes back and says, well, I haven't had time to go to the range, or, I haven't been able to play golf since we last met. And now you've got to basically go through the whole lesson again that you did the last 2 weeks, or at least part of it. So you're kind of behind the eight ball. Again, there's a little bit, it's not to suggest that we're policing you all of a sudden, but we know whether or not you've actually been working on some of the stuff that we've, gone through the first round. The other thing, too, I want to point out, Rich, real quick, and I'll let you expand on it a little bit, is this is an app really for golfers of all levels. It's not just the high handicappers, but even the better players can benefit. Talk about that a little bit. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up, because this is absolutely for every golfer. For the higher handicap, it's really about eliminating faults or issues with that body motion, one at a time. I'm going to take one step back and say, we don't have a template for a swing. There's no perfect swing. You talked about different body types and different flexibilities and different statures. So we don't believe in that, and that's not what we do. What we do, is we eliminate incorrect motion that brings inconsistency to your swing, and what we help you is achieve your own perfect motion. So there is an infinite number of, quote, perfect motions you can achieve, because it all depends on you and how you move. But what we will do is help you eliminate the things that are going to make it difficult for you to really be better. So given that, now let's talk about, so the higher handicaps, it's about fault detection and elimination, so that you get better and you stop having these things that really in some ways hold you back or create situations that you have to compensate, and again, therefore lose power, distance, and accuracy. Well, once you've achieved a certain level, or let's say the better players start at, and of course the less skilled golfers will eventually progress to a point where they don't have any faults with their body motion. Then they use the motion map and a feature we call Perfect Trace, along with the immediate feedback to make fine adjustments and dial in the best shots. So the tour pros that are using the app right now, the way they use the app is that they take swings with a ball, and when they hit it just right, they nod their head, and the app automatically marks that swing with a thumbs up. And then after the session, they look through those thumbs up and they say, this is the one that was swing 3 that I got the perfect result. That becomes now their perfect trace. And now every time they take that same shot, instead of getting feedback on faults, they're seeing variances against that very accurate body trace. So what they're doing is dialing in their best result using feedback on exactly what their body motion is. And it really dials in it's really all about self-discovery. I mean, they continually talk about self-discovery. They'll make adjustments with their upper body, don't get good results. They make adjustments with their lower body, suddenly they get the right result, and they can see it on the map, and they're different. And the other thing you can do if you're a better golfer is, everybody has that one shot they hate. Water on the right, wind coming from the left. Well, guess what? Hey, take it out there and recreate that sometime and see what the map tells you, because I guarantee you something else is going on there. And so that's another way that the better players are using it. So yeah, absolutely. This is really a tool. In one way you think of it as a training tool, and another way you can think of it as a very, very accurate body measurement tool. And the crazy thing is, it's all you need is your phone, and it's $6 a month.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about it is, and again, as I mentioned before, everybody's either got a garage or a closet full of all kinds of gadgets and things. I mean, I go down to I was down to the PGA show this past January, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but there was a ton of different products down there. Some of them are very good. I'm not knocking them, but again, they're not really getting to the root cause of things. And a lot of great apps, as you mentioned, but again, most of them video-based, and again, not really, showing me what I'm doing, but not really explaining in greater detail of some of the areas that I'm obviously struggling with. And, for the better players, obviously, they're not so much eliminating mistakes. They're using it to tighten up areas that they're struggling, whether it be their chipping or what have you. Because most of the guys on the tours and gals, they're hitting it solid. They're making good contact, but there are areas of their game that they could benefit using the app as well. So it is something really for everybody.
Yep. Well, as an example, I met Rory at a pro-am, and he talked about, and he still talks about how in his backswing sometimes he dips. And the interesting thing is, if Rory, and he's not using it yet, but when he does, he'll actually be able in every swing to see exactly what that dip is and when he's doing it. So that's just a simple example of how somebody at the highest level, and like Bryson is another one. I mean, he's reinventing the swing, right? Well, think about how this feedback could add to all of the other types of feedback he's going. But the crazy thing is, it's so simple, and all he has to do is put his phone down. So that's just quick examples of how powerful this very accurate feedback can be, in sort of really understanding, and again, self-discovery in terms of how to improve.
Well, and the nice thing about it, Rich, is this, and as you've mentioned a couple of times now, this type of technology for years was similarly available in larger machines, very, very expensive to replicate. You've managed to create an app that anybody can use, and everybody nowadays either has an iPhone or an Android. And as you said, they can download the app and test it out for a couple of weeks in the trial version and get access to a lot of the features we've talked about. And then for little as $6 a month, which is nothing, again, take that technology on their smartphone or their iPhone to the golf course and get positive reinforcement and feedback instantly and not have to wait. And again, it's a great tool that they can use in conjunction with lessons they're already taking with their current instructor, or they can reach out, through the app to instructors that are already working through PerfectMotion as well. So there's a lot of different options there for very, very inexpensive. And normally this type of technology would be extremely expensive, but you guys have managed to put it into an app that is accessible, which again goes to something that I've said for years, and that is golf can be a very, very expensive sport, and you guys have come out with a product that everybody can afford. Everybody can afford $6 a month to have that have access to technology that typically would be something that the pros would have. Now they can have it too.
Yeah,
right?
And we're excited about having a meaningful impact on the game of golf and really the enjoyment of golfers. And again, the app is simple, and you will improve. I should say the other thing is that because of the way the app works, I want to say one more thing about sort of cost. And you've already said, the app in itself, in the self-directed mode, is, it's the equivalent of a small bucket of balls. So my sense is most people can afford that. But the other thing is that because of the way the app works, in other words, the app becomes an extension of the instructor that you choose. So they're sort of with you on every swing. And so what happens is the app engages you because of the value you get just from using it. Because of that engagement, now you've generated the data that the instructor needs to be able to guide you, right? So one thing leads to another. And so the instructor with relatively small amount of time can provide an incredible amount of value. I mean, from an instruction and business perspective, what we're really doing is helping instructors. We're adding leverage to the golf instructor profession, something that every profession in the world has done over time. And what I mean by that is now every instructor develops expertise. Now we're allowing them to package it up in ways that they can deliver to a student on demand at high value very, very efficiently. And so because of that, you can for less than an hour of an instructor on the box, you can get an entire month of instruction from them. It's crazy, but the numbers work, and that's because you're engaged and always improving. The data that you're generated allows them to very easily, and by the way, any instructors out there, anybody is free to use this. Come talk to us. You'll learn very quickly. You'll see the power, and now you have an ability to offer a coaching service that's sort of crazy. So we have a whole bunch of instructors. As an example, if the instructor's hourly is $150 for literally $100 a month, you'll get them for the entire month. So we're creating a whole new price point because of the technology and the efficiency, but the most important thing is it's a system that makes it much easier to speed your improvement.
Well, and the other thing that I really like about it as well, in addition to that, is the fact that, if I want to go out and improve my own game, as an example, I can go to the range or I can go, even at home, and I can work on some of the things that I might need to work on in the privacy. One of the and I talked about this earlier on the show, is with unfortunately with sort of the spawn of COVID, the golf industry has actually had a crop of new people coming out that have never been around this game before. And a lot of them, some of the feedback we get is they're very uncomfortable, very nervous. They don't know what to do. This allows them to kind of work in the privacy of their own comfort level until they're ready to progress to, working with a coach. And what's nice about this is they can actually work with a coach without even realizing they're working at a coach by not having somebody physically. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because of the technology, it gives them access to that expertise, technology, and feedback without having to actually stand in front of somebody at that stage. So they can kind of work at it in their own progression. And then when they're more comfortable, then if they want to, connect with somebody. But there's a lot of new people right now that are very, and particularly with women are very, very nervous. They don't want to look foolish. They don't want to. This allows them to be able to get out there and get some very solid feedback and understanding of how to develop the swing properly and get the results they're going to need to get without actually even hitting a golf ball.
Absolutely great point, and definitely a great way for sort of beginners to pick up the game. By the way, every instructor gives we call a GPA, grip, posture, and alignment video as part of the videos that are included in the app. So that's like the absolute place to start. You always got to start from the ground up, get the basis, and then use the app, and it'll tell you right away what's going on. Absolutely. By the way, Sarah Stone is one of our female instructors. She's fantastic. We're trying to get instructors. We have instructors actually all over the world now, but we're trying to be, again, we're inclusive. We're actually really a community. In fact, one of the things that's really fun for the team is that we meet with instructors constantly, and I told you about the motion map and this sort of concise, representation of a swing. Well, unlike a video, which takes a while to play and different angles and all sorts of issues and processing, you can look at like 10 swings of a student all at once and see immediately what the patterns are. And So we have these great huddles with all these instructors that share tips about what's going on and how to fix it. I mean, it's really amazing. We really encourage it, and I think a lot of them, instructors really do want you to get better, and they want to be as good an instructor as they can be. And we're trying to sort of help in all dimensions, and we learn a lot. That's how the app keeps getting better. I mean, we've had like 60 versions over the last year. Because we keep making discoveries in the data, and through the instructors, we learn more and help make the rules better, detect more things. Again, all in the mission of better golf and more fun.
Well, and right, and that's really what it boils down to. So, Rich, let's tell the folks, where they can go to get more information if they're interested in learning more about it. And then we can tell them where they can go to download the app if they're ready to get started.
Okay, so the best way to sort of learn more about the app is to go to our site, PerfectMotion, .io. We're an app company, so it's a .io, and you'll find information. There's an extensive support, and but to be honest, a lot of the experience is all about using the app, and we've strived, again, through feedback, and we encourage feedback of experience, to make this app as simple as possible. It is new, it's different, but basically the best way. So go to our site, you can download it, Android or iOS, and once you download it. Or you can go right to the store. So go search for PerfectMotion, one word, and we're on both the Play Store and the App Store. And the process is simple. You download the app, you sign up with really just a name and an email address, and then you're sort of encouraged to get started with some very simple things. The first is try a swing, which literally shows you which buttons to push, and shows you how to position the phone, which is, by the way, on the ground, in front of you, tilted up toward you. As you start a session, you hit start session, you put the phone down, and it'll tell you when you've tilted the phone correctly or not. So all the guesswork is gone. Once you've tilted correctly, a countdown starts, and you set up about 4 feet from the phone. Too close or too far away, it'll tell you, and then it'll literally walk you through a swing by telling you to look at the target, look back at the ball or where the ball would be, and then you swing. And if you're doing no ball, make sure you finish your swing by looking toward the target. Don't look at the phone. It'll show you the feedback afterward. And really that's it. And then you're encouraged to do 2 other things. Now do 5 swings. Right at home, just try it out. I mean, literally, it's going to take you a minute or 2 and see where you are. And then the last thing is then choose a coach for free and get then access to those custom videos. And there's no obligation. You're not obliging yourself to that coach, but it's really the best experience. And so that's it. It's really simple. You really should just try it. I guarantee you'll learn something, and hopefully you'll enjoy it and start improving.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And for those of you just tuning in, go to PerfectMotion.io. You can see all the information you need about the PerfectMotion app. And you can also download whichever version. If you're using an Apple product, you can get it, download it there, or Android. It's also available, or you can go directly to the App Store or Google Play Store as well. You can get them there directly. But go and check out the videos on their website. It's PerfectMotion.io. All of the videos and all the information there on an app. I think it's going to be a great product. It already is, and it's going to continue to grow. Rich, I want to thank you very much for joining me tonight here on Golf Talk Live. It's been very enlightening and very interesting to hear about it, and I know that it's already seen a lot of success and will continue to grow. And for you instructors out there, you can get in touch with Rich as well, I'm sure, through the website if you're interested in learning more and maybe participating and throwing your hat into the ring, as it were, as a coach. So go to PerfectMotion.io and reach out to Rich and the gang through the website. Rich, thank you very much for coming on Golf Talk Live tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ted. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me, and happy to at some point come back if we want to. We can analyze swings. We can do all sorts of stuff. It'd be fun. One other thing, real quick, for instructors, just download the app.
Mm-hmm.
When you fill out the sign up, check the contact me about becoming a coach box, and then we'll contact you and set up a meeting and tell you all about it. So that's really the easiest way to get in touch with us. Again, Ted, thank you so much. This is great. I'm sorry.
Even better. Make sure you do that, guys. If you're a coach or a teaching instructor, make sure you check that box. Again, my pleasure, Rich. Thank you very much for joining me, and much continued success. And I'd love to have you come back on a future show, and we can take it a step further.
Okay, great. Thanks again, Ted.
All right.
Thanks again.
Have a great evening. All right.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. That was Rich Kosowsky, CEO of PerfectMotion, a new app. It's been around for a little bit, but always making some new adjustments and changes to make it better for you, and a lot of great technology packed in there. So if you want to learn more, as I said, go to perfectmotion.io. You can learn more there. There's some great videos on there. It gives you a little bit more in-depth. You can also reach out there. And if you're wanting to try it out, you can try it out for 14 days on a free trial. You can just download it if it's whether you have an iPhone or a Android product. You can download it right from the site, or you can go to the App Store or to the Google Play Store and get it directly there. Just put in PerfectMotion, one word, and it'll come up and you can download it there and try it out for yourself. I think it'll be well worth it. And if you're a coach or instructor, again, you download it, and as you're filling out the information, there's a box there that you can tick and check off, and asking them to reach out to you that you're interested in maybe participating, and they'll get in touch with you, as Rich suggested. So thanks again to Rich Kosowsky, CEO of PerfectMotion, for joining me tonight on Golf Talk Live, and also a special thanks to Paul Castor and Jamie Leno-Zimron for joining me earlier on the Coach's Corner panel. All right, guys, have a great week. I want to thank you for tuning in tonight's show. God bless everybody. Stay safe, and get out there and work on your game, and get out there and just have some fun. Even if you're new to the game, it's just a great opportunity to get out there in the great outdoors, and it's one of the very few activities that we're actually able to do. So take advantage of it. God bless everybody, and have a great week, and I'll see you next time on Golf Talk Live. Thanks for listening to this evening's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. Remember to tune in each week at blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live. If you can't join us live, check out the on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts, or listen on any of the following social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course, Spotify. To get updates on future shows and upcoming guests, be sure to visit the show's Facebook page, Golf Talk Live Blog. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO. Remember to join me live each week for another great broadcast of Golf Talk Live. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.